Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be talking about how I went from a part-time dog sitter to a full-time business owner in less than a year. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. It helps way more than you know. Hi everyone, if you've been dabbling in part-time dog sitting and you're thinking about going full-time and you're not sure if you are ready for it, you come to the right place. I'm going to tell you what I did and what kind of things I considered before going full-time myself. I'm going to break it down to 5 different parts and I'll share my personal story with you guys. Number 1 is assessing your situation. Number 2 is to build a solid foundation. Number 3 is to expand your market. Number 4 is to set up the actual business. And number 5 is the actual transition part. Making a leap from part-time to full-time does take effort and a little bit of guts. I hope these tips can help you transition from part-time to full-time as well. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section below and I'm happy to help and give any advice I can. So assess your current situation. How steady is your current booking? Do you see any patterns or trends in your bookings? For example, if you have better clients on weekends, that is a trend. If you have more clients for 3-day weekends for holidays, that is a trend as well. And that one is a little bit more predictable. Another part of assessing your situation is what are your financial needs? A way to do that is calculate your monthly income and your monthly spendings to see what do you really need to get by day to day. Don't forget to also calculate your savings. Because this will be a 1099, there will be no taxes withheld for you, so you'll be paying taxes in the future and you have to save up for retirement. The last part of assessing your situation is what does your commitment look like? Do you have time to go full-time or can you only start part-time to full-time? So instead of 20 hours a week, can you do 30 hours a week? 35 hours a week? That is up to you to decide. If the numbers look good, ask a friend. If they think it looks good, it's time to move forward. Number 2 is to build a solid foundation. To build a solid foundation, you need a professional profile. Use platforms like Rover, for example. You can also look into WAGs or Trusted House Sitters. I personally don't have experience with Trusted House Sitters at all, but I've looked into WAG myself and they're pretty similar to Rover. Make sure to include a great bio and a profile picture. You can refer to my other video regarding this, but I did comment on what I think is a good profile, a good detailed bio, and what kind of profile picture you should have. So make sure you include glowing reviews from friends and family. You can request those on the Rover app. Another part of building a solid foundation is to get some training done. So whether it is getting CPR for pets, learning how to administer medication for senior dogs, or grooming, that's another really big one on the platform. That is something you definitely can include in your resume or your bio. So step number 3 is to expand your market, build a network. Whether that's going to the dog park, going to the vet office. I know that's a little bit of a sensitive place to be to tell people about your business, but I love going to the dog parks when I started out. I would go to dog parks and then I would tell people what I do. They'll ask about, where do you go for your dog sitting? Where do you go when you're out of town? People love talking about their pets. Good stories and bad stories. So make sure you have your business card ready on you at all times. Think about all the other services you can offer. Dog walking, dog grooming, puppy versus non-puppy, puppy versus seniors, regular dog age versus seniors. There's so many things to consider, so expand your pool of services. What about pet transportation or overnight stays or just a drop-in? There's different things you can list and people can select based on what their needs are. Remember, you can always give discounts to friends and family if needed to get the business going. Number 4 is to set up your business. I will not be going into all the details for every city, county, or state, but I'll tell you what I did. For mine, I needed a business license. I also needed to look into how to have a LLC versus an S Corp. So these are all things you might need to talk to a legal team about or a finance team. Get a business license and also insurance. Make sure to set up an LLC to protect yourself. So in case anything happens, God forbid, your clients will not be able to sue you for your own personal assets like your home or your car. That's what the LLC would do for you. Be organized. So set up a system like QuickBooks. I use MileIQ to track all my driving. I use Google, I use Excel, very simple things. I'm not complicated at all. I know a lot of people actually went into ginger.com. It's a way to set up a dog profile, a dog business for people that do things like I do, but I actually don't do that. I actually don't pay for a service like that. I do everything in-house on Google. And number 5 is the actual transition part. Transition gradually. So whether it's 3 months in, 5 months in, you slowly transition, you know yourself best, and to see if you can even afford to do it right now. Make sure you take your time doing it and don't just dive right in without any cushion at all. So don't do it just because I did it like that, but it happened to work out for me. So make sure you plan ahead and get some cushion for yourself too. Hello, change of scenery. I want to give you my full story of how I transitioned from part-time dog sitter to a full-time dog business owner. I just want to say that this is what I did. If you saw the first part of my video, those are all the things I considered before going full-time. Hopefully you can consider those things as well and think about those as your checklist. But just remember that not everyone's story is the same. Just to recap, the 5 steps were to assess your situation, to build a solid foundation, expand your market and services, to set up your business professionally, and lastly is to transition slowly and gradually. But this is my story and how I did it. First off, I have to say my situation was a little different from most people that I know of my age at the time. I know that's a mouthful, but I was very blessed to say that I was living rent-free. I was very blessed to have some cushion in that area. I was living rent-free at my husband's grandmother's house in West LA at the time. She was very gracious in letting me bring strangers' dogs home into her home and let me be responsible for them. It was pretty awesome. That gave me opportunity to try different methods to see what worked and what didn't work. All while I was an intern teacher making pretty much nothing at a local school. I finished up the school year with only dog walking, and then it came summertime. So I keep this up or do I take a break? I started the school year by being a homeschool teacher in a home pod because COVID was huge that year. It was middle of 2020 and things were so uncertain at the time. So I was doing a homeschool teaching pod and I was working from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I was off of work earlier than most people who work 9 to 5s or 8 to 5s. So I was able to take in dogs after school a little bit at a time. My husband also worked night shift. He worked from I want to say 11 p.m. until 8 a.m. And then when I was going off to work, he would be sleeping. He was very supportive in this. He was receiving dogs at the house when I was out of the house. So basically he was giving up his sleep to try this gig with me. And we didn't even know if it was going to be full-time or part-time. A little closer, but oh, that's a little too close. Okay, I think this might be a little dark. How do I do this? I would say all my ducks line up for me before making this jump. I'm a pretty high risk, high reward person to begin with. So even if my ducks didn't line up, I think I still would have made this decision to go from part-time to full-time. But there were other things I need to consider, like my mental and emotional needs. And I'll get into that in a bit, but there was honestly no better time than that year because I was young, I had the time, I had the energy, I had the cushion that I needed. I wasn't paying any rent or any mortgage. It was the perfect time. If not then when? I'm gonna dial back a little bit. So I went from January 2020 to June 2020 of only dog walking, and now it's summertime. I was like, do I continue doing this? Do I apply for teaching jobs? Well, I still did. I still applied for teaching jobs left and right, but I was doing dog sitting now, but full-time for the summertime. Summer was here, it's June, and I had a huge spike in dog sitting, which made things look really good. It was a huge spike because everyone's traveling and it was COVID, things were kind of opening back up and people were just flying left and right. It was awesome. It was great for me. I toyed with the idea of syncing with Rover throughout the year, but I had so many things to think through. I was like, no way this is sustainable. There's only a spike because it's summertime. Is this sustainable all year long was the question. Now comes August and I wasn't sure where to go from here. I had to have a really hard conversation with my husband. I learned that what I was afraid of wasn't lacking the clients, but I was walking away from my dream job at the time. I was going to school, teaching, learning, researching, testing for 3 years, and I was afraid to tell my friends and family that, hey, you supported me for all this time, but I just ended up being a dog sitter. And that was a huge fear for me to tell people that. I didn't want to tell people that I went to grad school for nothing. And I didn't want to tell my mom that I went to grad school for nothing. After talking to my husband, he was so supportive and he was actually really encouraging. The numbers did help. The numbers looked really good, so it did help. But he was actually just really supportive. He said,
if you don't want to do this anymore after a year, just go back to teaching.
But let's try it out. This is the time to do it. And I said, you know what, you're right, let's do it. So we did. Again, I had more guts because I was very cushioned, I was comfortable, not having rent, not having a mortgage was awesome. If you live with your parents, try it out. If you have to rent, ask your landlord. Tell them, hey, can I bring in 1 to 2 pets at a time? Maybe you have to only stick with dog walking, house drop-ins. Do whatever you can do right now to make it work, because if not now, when? It will only get harder and more difficult to schedule as time goes on and as you get older. I did give myself a deadline. I said if it doesn't look good by the end of October, I'm gonna give this up. But I treated it like a real business, even though I didn't know it was gonna be good in 3 months, 5 months, a year. I had to give myself a standard. October came and went and business was very sustainable. And then November hit. It was Thanksgiving and my bookings skyrocketed. I knew I needed a lot of help. I even convinced my husband to quit his full-time job, the 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. job to help me out. And I think that's a huge risk because now 2 people's livelihoods were dependent on this. And now we're both doing this together. I was like, are we crazy? But let's do it. Thanksgiving came and went. And then December came and went. It was New Year's. It was a great 3 months. We had no boundaries. We didn't know how to celebrate the holidays with family and friends. We just worked all the holidays. But then January came and it was as slow as we've ever felt in the history of doing Rover. It was slow. We thought January was slow. February was slow. It finally started picking up in March. So note to self, just like a business, there is going to be highs and lows. Clients will come, clients will go, clients move away, holidays come and go. It is just so unpredictable, but yet kind of predictable, especially with April coming up and it's tax season. There's a lot of money going into it. So you better have saved up from November, December, New Year's. You just have to plan ahead. Making the leap from going part-time to full-time does take effort and the right opportunity. But with planning and passion, you can make it work as well. I hope my tips and my story will encourage some of you guys to go from part-time to full-time. If you're on the border of not knowing if you should go full-time or part-time, consider the 5 steps I gave you guys in the beginning of this video. But just remember, just because those 5 things were the things I considered doesn't mean those are the only 5 things that you have to consider too. Your list might be shorter than mine, it might be longer than mine. If you live in a place with only apartments, your list will be different. If you live in a place with only farmland, your list will be different. So just really consider my 5 things and then go from there. Good luck, let's keep booking these clients and keep dog sitting, and I hope all your dog sitting dreams come true. Bye! She was very gracious in letting me bring in strangers home.